everyone. Welcome to Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Akimbale, live for you in our makeshift studio here in the capital of Anambra State, Oka, where we've been monitoring for you a continued coverage of the governorship election, which went into an inconclusive state yesterday. And tomorrow, the election will hold in Hiala local government with over 147,000 votes at stake. Tonight, we'll take a look at the preparations ahead of tomorrow. Hiala, the reasons why elections could not hold. Is everything set for tomorrow? This is some of the conversation we'll be having tonight on the program. But first, let's tell you that the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has sentenced the chairman of the defunct pension reform tax team to 8 years in prison on charges of money laundering. And that is Mr. Abdul-Rashid Maina. This comes after he was found guilty earlier today on inducing staff of Fidelity Bank to open accounts for him without conducting the requisite due diligence. Delivering the judgment, Justice Okonabang also found Mr. Maina guilty of concealing his true identity as signatory to accounts opened in UBA and Fidelity Bank by using the identity of his family members without their knowledge. These accounts had cash deposits of 300 million naira, 500 million naira, and 1.5 billion naira. The court held that Mr. Maina stole monies meant for pensioners, as he could not prove where he got the same money from. Justice Okonabang also held that through Mr. Maina's service as a civil servant, a salary and emoluments will not amount to the monies in these accounts. The court further held that his prosecutor, that is the EFCC, produced essential evidence through witnesses called to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Mr. Maina is also guilty of money laundering in the sum of 171 billion naira, which forms part of the proceeds of unlawful act. Before we get talking about the major focus and perhaps the biggest story in the land as far as politics is concerned, the Hiala inconclusive election or the supplementary election in Hiala, let's tell you about some of your other political stories. We captured it for you on our political roundup.
The Speaker of the Imo State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Paul Emeziem, has been impeached. 19 out of the 27 lawmakers are said to have signed a letter containing his impeachment. According to them, the Speaker was impeached on allegations of gross misconduct, forgery. The member representing Obo State constituency, Kennedy Ibe, has emerged the new Speaker of the House of Assembly. The Ogun State Governor, Dapo Abiodun, has been speaking on the state's 2022 budget, which he says will be targeted towards full economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic through strategic allocation of resources for projects that will directly impact on the well-being of the people. He made the promise while declaring open the state's Treasury Board meeting on the 2022-2024 medium-term expenditure framework and the 2022 budget session held in Abeokuta, the state capital. He directed government agencies to increase their capacities for revenue generation without unnecessary burden on residents.
We embarked on a number of initiatives to enhance operational efficiency and effectiveness and boost revenue generation.
Search and rescue efforts continue at the site of the Ikoyi building collapse over 1 week after the 21-story building gave way, with the death toll now rising to 44 and the number of survivors at 15. With a 30-day mandate given by the state government to an investigative panel into the collapse of the building, a gate to further secure the site has just been mounted, apparently in preparation for the inquiry.
Thank you so much, everyone. So let's get to it. It does look like INEC has made some adjustments ahead of tomorrow's supplementary election in Ihiala. Tonight, in a press statement, INEC says that following the suspension of the collation of results in respect of the 2021 Anambra State governorship election, that the commission has held a decision to hold the election in Ihiala from 10 a.m. and end at 4 p.m. This decision, according to INEC, is to be strictly complied with and has been taken following a careful review of the prevailing situation in Anambra State and is being widely shared with the stakeholders, including security agencies. The INEC is urging political parties, voters, election duty officials, election observers, and the media and the general public to note this slight modification, also appealing to citizens to conduct themselves in an orderly manner to ensure that the election is brought to a peaceful conclusion. So instead of having the election from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., for some reasons, INEC says there is a slight modification, and that is from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So for those who are in Ihiala tonight and hoping to go and vote, take note of that timing. Well, there has been some reactions to what happened, the declaration in the middle of the night yesterday by the Chief Returning Officer, the first female Vice Chancellor of the University of Calabar, where she said because of the no election status in Ihiala local government, the only local government that could not be announced yesterday, out of the 21, 20 were announced, and out of that, 18, the APGA party was leading in 18, and one for PDP, one for YPP. But there has been reactions. First, let's take a listen to the candidate of the PDP, Mr. Valentine Ozigbo, was reacting to the conduct of the election and the situation surrounding the supplementary election. Take a listen to him.
Now, with the amount of effort being put in by the different stakeholders, different parties, we're likely to have more people show up in Ihiala than anywhere else. And by extension, the rest of the other local governments where elections have not taken place in all the polling units. Quite a number of them, including Idemili North, Idemili South, Oka North, and many more. Altogether, about 12 more local governments will witness additional elections taking place. And apart from Ihiala, the rest have up to 100,000 votes plus. I must also commend INEC for their effort, their attempt to digitize the process. It is heartwarming to see that we are advancing in the era of technology, to see how we can leverage the new technology in organizing elections. However, we must note the imperfection, the irregularities that marred this election. It's indeed disheartening that only about 10% of the 2.5 million registered voters are showing up. It is unfortunate that some of the issues are actually man-made and not a case of voter apathy, that people are not unwilling to come out. No, people are happy, willing, and ready, and actually they did come out. But for lack of preparedness, for logistical issues which could easily have been solved, we found a situation where people came out, waited for hours, and went back home. And some who came out remained on the queue and couldn't vote because of delays and problems associated with authentication of their identity. I want to urge INEC to take these into consideration, especially in the rest of the other elections remaining.
That is the candidate of the PDP, Valentine Ozigbo. After that declaration yesterday on the grounds of the Coalition Center, the former national chairman of the All Progressive Grand Alliance and the former senator, Chief Victor Ume, has a few things to say about the coalition process, the stalemate, and the conduct of the election generally. Take a listen to him.
We are exceedingly happy and very grateful to the electorate in Anambra State, the voters. Election took place in 20 local governments. ABGA won in 18 out of 20. So you can see the level of confidence reposed on this in this party by the people of Anambra State. So one can only be happy. Here, our local government area had no election, and it's been scheduled to Tuesday. So we wait within 72 hours. That election will also be conducted in Ihiala, and we will extend our lead in the election. It's to say that Victory delayed is victory not denied. So it's just being delayed. And we have no reason to worry. We are very comfortable where we are now. We have won in 18, and the Constitution requires us to have 25% in 14 local governments. We have won in 18 local governments, so we have surpassed the constitutional requirements.
That is Chief Victor Ime, the former national chairman of APGA and a former senator in the 8th Senate. But he was the party agent of APGA. The APC party agent, Mr. Chibuzo Obiako, also spoke and reacted on behalf of his party on the conduct. Take a listen to him too.
There was no election, not even one place. So you have to give them a chance to exercise their franchise. So we agree with that. And if you remember, because I know you were here all day, there were some other local governments, some other registration areas, and some other polling units that they had issues where this was not working, that was not working, people were disenfranchised. So that one is still outstanding. So what they're trying to do now is to get Ihiala up to par with the other 20 local governments that have already, where you had some activities. So once you get them up to par, then you start looking at these subheadings or sub-areas to see how you need to handle it. So we agree very much so with the decision.
Will that impact on the chances of your party at all in this election?
It is never over until it's over. The fat lady hasn't sung yet. She's still preparing.
Your party did not win any local government.
We don't have to win any local government. What we need is to get majority of votes and to get 25% of votes in 2/3 of the local governments.
All right, then. You've heard from some of the political parties, their reactions. It's just few hours before the supplementary election. But how ready is security for that election? How ready is INEC for that election? You've heard from INEC. There's a slight adjustment from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. But let's take a look at security more closely. The man in charge of security here in Anambra State joins us now. Mr. Echenge. Echenge is the Commissioner of Police in Anambra State. Thank you so much, Mr. Echenge.
Thank you for having me.
I know it's been some very long day for you. You look like you've not had a sleep.
For everybody.
But how is tomorrow coming?
We are very prepared for tomorrow. Anambra has 21 local government areas, and as of yesterday, results from 20 of the local government areas have been declared, leaving only Ihiala. The reason was from INEC that it was security, but I know that we had enough security in place in Ihiala. But whatever it is, we are good to go. We are ready to add more security to Ihiala and make sure that the good people of Ihiala come out massively to vote, and also to provide the needed security that they need to do that.
Ihiala is the border to Olu local government in Imo State.
Yes.
And it seems to be things that have not really been going fantastic there around that region. What are the tendencies that are common to that area?
Well, we have had a series of attacks, especially at the Sumabu axis, which is closest to the border of Imo, and I think as I speak, we have taken care of that situation because we have deployed effectively, strategically. We are deploying APCs to man that axis, and also the military is bringing Anambra also, and we have tactical units spread all over the place. So we are ready to go.
Are you going to shut down that local government in terms of the perimeters? The reason why I asked the question is for the election, the IG made an order that the whole of Anambra State declared a curfew between 11:59 p.m. of Friday to 11:59 of Saturday night. That's to help contain any possible threats that could come externally, that could come into Anambra State. But since you have only one local government area, is there any kind of curfew imposed on Ihiala?
The same standard applies to Ihiala. We are going to shut down from 11:55 p.m. today and open up 11:55 p.m. tomorrow, because there were reasons why that shutdown had to be. And it also take care of issues of the entry and the exit points, people not being allowed to come in to cause any problem. So we are going to do exactly what we did with the whole state. But this time around, restricted to Hiala alone.
So, well, if you look at what happened in Hiala from the report of INEC and some of the officials, I will come to Urumba because that was a very big drama, and you watch how that played out. But for Hiala, INEC says that there was a resistance. They wouldn't even allow them go into that community, and that was why no election happened in that area. Can you tell us, as much as you know, of the report you got later? Because I know that we spoke to you and you said, as far as you're concerned, you had it covered. And if there's any problem, it was going to be INEC issue. But what are the reports you're getting?
I still have to say that there was enough security in Hiala. INEC said that there was no security, or that is the reason the election was not held. We're going to add more security to make sure that that issue is not raised again. And that we have done. One
of the reports was that, in fact, when the report, some of the materials got into some rack, some of your men said, look, the brief we had is to stay in the rack, not to escort you to the polling unit. What makes Hiala so much of a hotbed that it looks scary for most people? Because if election held in 20 of the 21 local government areas, why is Hiala a bit difficult?
You ask those who say so, not the police. Because we are on ground, the military is on ground, and other security agencies were on ground. Ask those who say so.
I mean, they've told us why they said so. They said, look, the reason was that because there was fear to go into Hiala. And the whole of the local government, by the way, there are 323 polling units in Hiala, about 30 RAs in Hiala. So one we wonder, what the threat is so much that they couldn't get into that place, such that it's not as though election happened in just a handful. It didn't happen at all in the entire local government, and they don't want to see people come into that area. What report are you getting?
I'm actually answer that question. Not the police. I still say emphatically, we were on ground with other security agencies. And as far as we were concerned, election was supposed to be there. So if INEC said there was threats, they should answer that question. But I know that for what we put on ground that day, we have almost doubled it for the purpose of tomorrow, because we don't want that issue to be raised again.
You've had an interaction with the REC. What did it tell you?
About
Hiala.
It's the same thing we are talking here.
Did he give you any personal report? I mean, any official report? Did he exchange any communication between both of you?
The issue was that there was a security threat in Hiala.
And so what strategy are you employing this time around?
Well,
because you said you deployed at that time.
We know before this election, I said here that we did our threat analysis. We know places that are hot, bets. We know places that we should be able to deploy massively, strategically, and we took care of that. For today, we started our deployments this afternoon, and we are all over the places. We know those places like Osumagu. We have taken care of those places as I speak. We know the place like Iseke. We have done so. We know Azia Junction. We have taken care of that. So let's see what happens tomorrow, because, like I said, we're ready. Because we cannot sit here and tell anybody that election declared in 21 states and only one local government, 20 local government, and we say that only one local government we cannot handle.
Does it embarrass you as a commander of the police in this state when they say we cannot go into that kind of environment? Does it somewhat kind of give you some shivers in any way?
But they are ready to go. They say we are
asking, and I'm asking from a professional to a professional, a security professional, I'm a communications expert. And so the reason why I'm asking that question is that sometimes when things come our way as professionals, it could embarrass us, because we think that we could be able to surmount challenges, because you've been preparing for these all along. And when one local government is singled out, Does it throw at you any kind of embarrassment of some sort?
We prepare for all scenarios.
So what lesson did it?
That's what they say. That security threats, we are ready to do more to make sure that threat is taken away.
What lesson have you taken away from that? And sometimes when you prepare and the unforeseen happens, isn't it?
Unforeseen happens, not caused by security.
Are you taking the responsibility?
Of what?
The election didn't hold there.
And I should take responsibility because we deployed.
So what message are you sending out to those who perhaps are thinking that they could foment trouble tomorrow in Ihiala?
Remember that we prepared for the whole Anambra state, and that's 21 local government. That's been reduced to only one. And if we're able to take care of 20, and we have only one, I can tell you that the deployment is massive and strategic at the same time.
How many men are you deploying to Ihiala tomorrow?
I won't open up and tell
you. No, you were able to tell us that about 34,000 you deployed
for the
general election.
We are deploying more than 1,000 to the polling booth, which makes an average of 3-4 every polling booth. We are going to be complemented by other security agents. Then all the tactical teams, all the PMF teams, we have pushed enough into Ihiala because we want to make sure that at every point that we anticipate a problem, we dominate the area. And for whoever wants to come out tomorrow, he will have his own story to tell. Because like I said, we are not out there for the good people of Ihiala. Ihiala deserve better because history has been made in the states. They are electing a new governor. And 20 local government can not be the only ones that will elect a governor for the state. Ihiala is the 21st or the 21 local government area. They deserve to be part of this history in the making. So they should come out.
You're going with enough firepower tomorrow.
We have enough boots on the ground and assets. They should come out and vote for a governor that they will be proud of tomorrow, that they were part of the election. And those who want to foment trouble, I don't think they have the space to do that.
Is there, if I could ask you this, because I've known you for some time now, and I know you as a very strong and courageous police officer. What can you tell us about Ihiala? Does it harbor some elements that are notorious in any way?
What I want to say about Ihiala, for us, Ihiala was not the most vulnerable as far as the local government areas were concerned before this election or during this election. Yes, occasionally we have pockets of incidences in Ihiala. We have pockets of a situation where people come from the neighboring state, which is Imo State, to attack some points and disappear. We're prepared for that scenario. And as I speak, whichever point they're coming from, we have taken care of it. We have boxed them out there, and we are going to do robust patrol inside to make sure that we deny them liberty or access to do anything that they want to do, which is negative.
The materials that were deployed,
yes,
the election, the sensitive and the non-sensitive,
yes,
were they still intact?
Of course, they were intact. Nobody talks about the materials. Did anybody complain about the materials?
So because they were exposed, they have been deployed on the field.
They were taken to the rack centers,
yes,
and police were deployed to guard it, and we have been there. There have not been any incidents of any of them being taken out or any of them being tampered with.
So INEC is not sort of replacing them? They're using the same set of materials?
I want to think so.
Because, I know naturally you would have been informed to help transport materials. So we probably will assume that they're still using the materials.
Yeah, these are materials, I think, that are customized. Okay. They are meant for Ihiala. You can't even take it to another.
So it's not as if you have new materials that are taken?
No.
What about the welfare of your men? Have they been paid now?
Yes.
Because I understand they were not being paid as at a few days ago.
They have been paid.
When were they paid?
If you be the accent, they will tell you. But
no, because you are their commander. Their morale is very important. Like you say, morale high. Yes. And when you ask them, morale, and they keep quiet, that means something is wrong, isn't it?
Very, very important. The IG was very specific on this, and he gave instruction that every policeman who came for this election should be paid. Yes, the first few days of arrival, the money didn't drop. I'm part of it. I submitted my details just like every other person has, and I can authoritatively tell you that I collected my more than 5 days back. Okay. And most of them have collected. You know, there's always this problem. Some of them maybe did not submit an accurate account to the pool, and they have problem. And as I speak, there was also a signal sent from first recorder that those who have not received should cross-check and make sure that they send their details accurately so that they can be paid. But that's just a very significant number, but every other person has been paid.
Because also, I know that in this kind of situation, you need the morale of your men, because it sort of feels like anybody coming into Anambra State, like you said, that it was the sound of war and everything was going to go wrong.
Yes, you'll be here for more than how many days with us?
Yes, and there's no loss of life. I mean, I'm very happy with that.
You're not hiding under the bed, too?
No, I'm not hiding under the bed. But you're assuring us that everything will go well tomorrow. That people should go out. We want them to go and exercise their franchise. Thank you so much, Mr. Ekenge. Always a pleasure having you. Thank you so much. We'll take a break. And when we come back, we analyze the conduct. Experts, Ezenwa Onwago will be joining us, and the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Paul Anambra. We're looking at the legality of all of these issues. We've taken care of the security. But what INEC has done, the slight adjustment, the legal angles to all of these issues, we'll take it up when we return from this break. Politics Today live on Channels Television. We're reaching you from our makeshift studio right here in the city of Awka, the Anambra State capital. And we're looking forward to the coverage of the supplementary election, or the governorship election in Anambra State tomorrow in Ihiala local government areas. There are a few things that you need to know about how all of these panned out. Ihiala local government is in Anambra South local government senatorial district. It has about 147,000 possible votes that are at stake that people will go to contest tomorrow. But also, you've seen how the parties were voted for, which party garnered what, based on every of the local government areas. We'll probably show you some of those for you, sorry, to refresh the memory about what is in it for this election. 21 local government areas, 20 results announced, 1 still hanging, Ihiala, yet to be conducted. Out of the 20 local government areas, APGA is ahead or is leading in 18 of them, 1 led by PDP and the other by YPP. So that's how it stands, and you can take a look at how all of these panned out from yesterday up until from Saturday up until yesterday when the results were being announced. So let's take a look at some of the other issues about the conduct. I'm being joined by our friend Ezenwa Onwago. Is the CEO, the Executive Director of Partners for Electoral Reforms, a member of the board of Yaga Africa, an election observer. He left here only this morning, I guess. He's in our Abuja studio today. Thank you so much, Ezenwa. I guess you've gotten some rest after the tedious work of observing the election. And we have a Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Paul Anambra, who joins us virtually from Lagos. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. First and foremost, let's go to you, Mr. Anambra. What do you make of the scenario of the supplementary election? Suffice to say that the election was inconclusive yesterday, and INEC is hoping that it will conclude tomorrow. Legally speaking, every dot being checked and every T is being crossed as we speak, from your point of view?
Well, good evening, Nigerians. I guess everyone would have heard the broadcast of the returning officer for that election. Now, the reason given by INEC is that elections did not hold in Ihiala local government, and you know, it's something that's a bit new. What we had known so much that took place earlier was the number of registered voters in the area and the margin.
I'll go to Abuja studio with Mr. Ezenwa Nwagu. Give me your view, Mr. Nwagu, on the adjustment INEC has made and they announced this evening, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. as against the usual 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.
Okay, so the bigger thing will be that even talking to the Commissioner of Police, you were clear that there was ambivalence in who was saying the truth. He said he deployed, and Yaga, watching the vote observers, were in the polling units in Ihiala. The officials were not there, they didn't turn up. And so if the police says we were there and INEC says it's security threat, Sheung, we did discuss in Oka a few days ago that part of the challenge that we have is that we paper over the absence of and value for money. We put 34,000 policemen and women for the Anambra election. We had, according to the NSDC, 20,000 of them. We have DSS and the rest of them all in Oka and the army. And INEC would basically come and say that they couldn't deploy in Oka, in Ihiala, because of security threats. And as we speak today, nobody is queried, no sanctions will come. We will move on, and then even when you do the election audit for the Anambra election, it will just be fired away somewhere. The police is saying we were there, and so we need to come to terms with the fact that at any point in time where people derelict from their responsibilities, there should be consequences and sanctions. So if you have a 10 a.m. 10 a.m. shift from 8:30 in the morning, it's just 1 hour 30, less than 2 hours. Whatever needs to happen for that election in Ihiala to take place has to happen. Maybe it has to do with preparation for the beavers and to test them to be sure that they are optimal. The embarrassment that INEC received with the performance of beavers on the Saturday election should not repeat itself in a smaller election. Like you know, beavers was tested at the Isoko South 1 federal constituency, and it performed optimally. So we hope that tomorrow that those beavers would work efficiently, so that the time that people will have to queue to vote will be reduced. And we're also hoping that we will not have this kind of buck passing. It's INEC, it's security. Nigerians who don't want any excuse. There is a sense in which there is already a suspicion hanging over Ihiala. We need to defray all of those worries and fears and concerns and declare that result so that Anambra can have a governor-elect.
Let's go to Mr. Anambra, who is with us virtually in Lagos. Mr. Anambra, if you can hear me now, apologies for the earlier mix-up there because of the audio situation, but I guess we've resolved that now. So
I can hear you loud and clear.
Give us a sense of the legal angles on all of this. Do you think everything is tidy enough to go ahead for that election tomorrow?
Well, you know, statutorily by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, INEC is given the powers to conduct the election, which includes making regulations and all the legal framework. If you look at what the returning officer has said, the returning officer has relied on clause 47 of the revised guidelines and regulations for this particular election, which says that where the conduct of there will be supplementary election where the commission could not deploy due to logistic challenges. That's what INEC is saying. And I was just saying earlier that the only problem is that Nigerians are beginning to have phobia for inconclusive election results, you know, announcement of results. declaration of results. Nigerians will record their previous experiences and will be very nervous. There'll be phobia. Who knows what will happen? But let me state clearly that the Anambra election was likely peaceful. And I said that earlier, that Anambra is a peaceful place. It's a peaceful place. And I expect that it will be peaceful even tomorrow. The timing, moving from 8 o'clock to 10, is not a problem. It is within the law. In fact, the Supreme Court stated clearly in Faleke and INEC, the guidelines, the regulations of INEC with respect to an election is not just a policy. It has the strength of law to a large extent. So they have powers as INEC to give out the guidelines and ensure that elections are carried out. And that's why many of us wondered when the National Assembly was going to say, INEC, go to NCC and get permission. No, that wouldn't happen. INEC has the legal standing and powers to carry out this. Now, based on what I just said, and the results already released and declared in the 20 local governments, we are set for a conclusion. And I expect that INEC will continue to be transparent and ensure that the results are declared almost immediately so that we don't have the experience in Osun. In Osun State, a lot happened in the rerun. If you are familiar with that election, all the complaints were about the rerun. It wasn't the first election. So let's not have a situation where there is a dropping of the ball. I'm happy listening to the Commissioner of Police, and I will, since it is only a local government.
Mr. Anambra, just for a moment, let me remind some of the breakdown we have based on the results that came out. These are the local government areas that the political parties won and how they won it. It was shared between amongst 3 political parties. And this is a list of what APGA won. 18 of them: Agwata, Anambra East, Anambra West, Anaucha, Awka North, Awka South, Ayamelum, Dunukofia, Ekusigo, Idemili South, Idemili North, Injikoka, Inewi South, Onitsha South, Onitsha North, Orumba North, Orumba South, and Oyi local government areas. Those are the 18 local governments that APGA took home, and PDP had Ogbaru local government area, and YPP held on to Inewi North. But if you look at how these were won, if you're wondering exactly how did they win it, between the 4 political parties who were in the lead in the race, so you can see from Agwata, you see how many registered voters, to Anambra East and to Anambra West, you see how many registered voters, the accredited voters, and how the votes were shared. And also you can Anaucha, Awka North, Awka South, and on. So that refreshes your mind about how the race went. But Mr. Unwago, if you can give us a sense of, it looks like deja vu, isn't it? Only that what we saw some times ago was in Idemili North and Idemili South. But in Anambra governorship election, this is not the first time that an election will be inconclusive. But what lesson do you think one can take out from this election for you who have monitored this kind of election for several years? For Professor Egu to tell us yesterday that in all of his years of working in INEC, this was the toughest election that he has ever asked to supervise.
But truth is that Anambra election has been one of the toughest elections in the history of democracy in Nigeria. 2013, you just referred to Idemili North and Idemili South. All the characteristics, the negative characteristics that had donned this particular election were indeed at a scale in 2013. And in 2017, there were these threats, there were security threats, there were all of that, yet the election held. late opening of polls, the challenge of accreditation of voters, and all of those issues are things that you see. So, but having said that, quite a lot of things have gone well for the Anambra election, which we also need to play up in this postmortem. Part of it is that the results, the electronic results issue performed excellently. The transfer of those results electronically, the IVETs did not have any issue. We know that the Beaver had issue, but the results component of it in places we didn't have challenge with that. And what is important, and I have learned, is that we need to scale up technology slowly rather than going wholesale. As important as it is for us to technologize, we need to be a bit move with a lot of caution, because when we raise expectations and then at the end of the day technology fails us, just like we saw with you not even hearing from Mr. Anambra, senior advocate of Nigeria, and then it took time for this to be restored. So we can't depend on technology to man our elections. Technology can only enable us to get better results. The human beings who run election, the people who will sell result sheets, the people who will compromise and collude with politicians to subvert the process. Technology can't take that away. So we need to be able to deal with these issues more drastically. And what will follow that is consequence and sanctions. If we don't have a consequence sanction regime that people are afraid of, that people will not want to confront, they will continue to undermine even security when we have it in place.
Let me go back to Mr. Anambra. It's interesting that we are putting the electoral process to test. There is the few experiments that we have taken to the Anambra governorship election, and interestingly, we are on the board of changing and adjusting the Electoral Act. What do you think comes out for you or to you in this process that you think could be a very big lesson for them to that will help in adjusting our electoral law?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Thank you, Okumbaloye, my friend. So I was talking about Chamberlain. You see, there are quite a lot to learn from Anambra. And one of it is that we must allow the electors to determine who wins the election. We must allow the voters to vote. And we must work with the citizens. It's not only about militarizing or having police everywhere. Let the citizens be allowed to exercise their franchise. And we should begin to de-emphasize this propaganda that engulfs the whole place, as if election wouldn't have actually taken place in Anambra State. So that we begin to build confidence. We need to improve on technology. We need to improve on technology, not waiting for the last minute to apply technology. All the elections going on from now, let us improve incrementally on technology. And then when we have done that, we should let political actors know that it doesn't pay anyone to be buying votes, to be resorting to violence and all that. As we build the political institution, political elections through INEC, as we build that, over time, we'll be able to have what to export to other countries. We will stabilize our electoral system. Nigeria is a great nation. We can do elections and we can follow electoral rules and arrive at the right decision.
Okay then, Mr. Anambra, I guess it's a good place to to end it, and I most sincerely thank you, Mr. Paul Anambra, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much indeed for your thoughts tonight. Our friend, Mr. Ezenwa Nwago, a member of the board of Yaga Africa, and also that of the election situation room. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. We appreciate it. Well, we're looking forward to tomorrow, 10 a.m. The polls will open, and you're sure that you get the live pictures right here on Channels Television. But till tomorrow, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm sure Kimale. Bye for now.